Hi, this is Dr. Lisabeth Saunders, Medlock from Life by Design Coaching with your life coaching tip of the week for the week of May 28, 2012. Happy Memorial Day. Today I'm going to be talking about the concept of being tenacious. Tenacity is a quality that's very important in terms of sticking to your goals, sticking to your plans, no matter what happens in life. When things come to knock you off your path, you kind of just, with tenacity, keep going down your path. So some people call it stick-to-itiveness, like being super motivated, but I think tenacity is a really good word. So tenacity, again, is important because I think what happens is that people set goals, people make plans, they lay things out, and of course, as you know, life happens. About 90% of it is unpredictable, and as soon as a strong wind blows or somebody kicks you, you're right off your path. But tenacity is kind of what keeps you deeply grounded and firmly rooted to your path. So I want to talk about a few things that will kind of get you more tenacious about sticking to things and going forward and heading down your path and sticking to it. One thing is when you do set goals for yourself, a lot of people set very vague goals, very lofty goals, goals that you aren't super thrilled about. And when you set those kind of goals, it's very hard to get motivated. If you've either set the bar too high, or I may or may not want to do that, or yeah, I wrote that goal, but I really don't know what it means. So when you actually have goals or plans for yourself, they have to be compelling, they have to be motivated, you have to be excited and have energy around them, and they have to be specific so that you really know what you're going for. So one is have very clearly stated goals. I've talked about this many times. Writing goals is super important, not just having goals, but the way you put them in writing, the way you articulate them is so important to get you kind of motivated. So part of tenacity is, if I'm going to really go for it and stick to it, I have to know what the heck I'm sticking to. The second thing is to be really clear about where you are in your current reality. And this is something I'm seeing more and more, is that people are not sometimes very good at taking what I call reality checks. And their view of their reality is so different than I think a lot of other people's views about their reality. They come up with these illusions. If you've ever done the Course in Miracles or read it, that talks a lot about how we create most of our world through illusions. And I've seen a lot of people that I would say, instead of living in reality, they live in this world they created, which is kind of an illusion, fantasy type of world. So one of the things you have to do to be tenacious is you have to get really real about who you are, where you are, and what you already have going for you. And be really honest about it. Talked a lot about authenticity, and this kind of goes along with authenticity. So really reality check and really be clear about your what your present reality is. Not what you think it is, not what your fantasy is, not your illusions about what your reality is, but really being true about what your reality is. And then another thing you have to do, I think, to be tenacious, is to bite off little bits that you can chew instead of trying to eat the whole pie. If it's tiramisu, yeah, you can eat the whole thing. I've done that before. But bite off smaller bites. And what people do sometimes is, same thing when they set lofty goals, is that they put a lot of stuff in front of them and say, I'm going to do all of this stuff. And then if you don't do all of this stuff and you fail at one thing, then you kind of go, the heck with all of this stuff, and you kind of toss it all out the window. But if you take smaller chunks and say, I'm going to do this little thing or make this little change, we call it, that's what baby steps are about. I'm going to take this little step, make this little move, change this little piece instead of the larger thing. If you can get your arms around that and do it, that increases your motivation, because when you do small things and you're successful, you're going to keep having success experiences. You don't want to have failure experiences. Everybody has shown, the research has shown, that if you start off with a failure experience, you're likely to have more failure experiences, or you begin fearful of failing, and then your fear stops you dead in your tracks. And that's another thing I really want to talk about is, I think one of the most important things is to try to really face your fears. Be real about what your fears are. As I've talked about many times, what really stops people? I mean, we're talking to 90% of the people I work with is fear. And then fear becomes not only the fear of something, but it becomes the fear of feeling fearful. And they said the worst fear is the fear of fear itself. And that's so true. So what you have to really do is really get a handle on, what do you fear? Why do you fear it? What's it really about? And be real about that. Because fear starts to really kind of build on itself, and where it becomes, it's a fear that you don't even know. You just are become fearful of everything, and then you fear fear, and then you fear failure. So really be clear about your fear, because fear is a motivator killer, and it's a tenacity. You can't be tenacious and a go-getter and a grab hold of it person and be fearful at the same time. It just doesn't work. So really get a handle on your fears and what they are and what they're about. So these are some ways to, I think, become tenacious. Have really compelling, motivating goals. Really be real about your reality. Get out of your fantasy world and really be clear about what you already have. Embrace what you already have. Really face your fears. Know what they are, and chew things up. Take smaller bites, chew them up, get them done, and that will really increase your motivation and your tenacity. I hope you enjoyed this life coaching tip of the week. Go out there, be tenacious. I'll see you next week for another tip. Have a great week.